when you start locking in and make a decision, which is really your superpower, and it's step one in the way that I teach manifestation, you have to have a clear decision of what you want. And whether that be, I'm going to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or I'm going to write my book starting today, it's all the same. Like, you're manifesting stuff all the time. All right, sounds good. I'm here.
All right, welcome, Carissa Andrews. From her accolades as an award-winning and internationally best-selling indie author to her role as the CEO of Author Revolution, Carissa Andrews is an undeniable force to be reckoned with in the literary world. Carissa is not just a name on book covers. She's a visionary, a mentor, a passionate advocate for indie authors everywhere. Behind her success lies a deep-rooted love for storytelling and a burning desire to empower others to share their own narratives. Writing for Carissa is more than just putting words to paper. It's a transformative journey, a means to inspire and connect with other readers and authors on a profound, deep level. Also, as the host of the Author Revolution podcast, Carissa's dedication to Carissa's dedication to helping fellow authors flourish shines bright, whether she's sharing practical tips or delving into the mindset of other authors and being an author herself. Her mission remains clear: to guide aspiring writers towards realizing their fullest potential and manifesting their own, quote, millionaire author destiny. She's a storyteller whose passion for writing has no limits. But who is Carissa really? Beyond her impressive achievements, beyond being an indie author, and why does she choose writing as her medium of expressing herself? We'll find out.
Yes, we will.
Welcome, Carissa.
Thanks, Thomas. I'm so glad to be here. It makes me sound so much more impressive.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. I love it.
Oh, man. Yeah, I want to start doing more intros like that. So, why not start here?
I like it. That sounds cool.
Yeah. I mean, well, it takes cool people to sound cool, right?
That's true. That is true.
So I guess, yeah, just who is Carissa Andrews beyond being an indie author, and what is an indie author, and like why do you want to help other authors pursue this?
Yeah. Well, for me, like I guess I'm a mystery person. Like, I started originally just loving the exploration aspect of things. So it didn't matter if it was books or if it was, exploring in my neighborhood or in the woods or movies or whatever. Like, I love the exploration aspect of things. And I also love ancient history. And so there was this time in my life where I was going to be an archaeologist, and I was full bore going into archaeology. I was going to become an archaeologist. I was going to be an Egyptologist perhaps, and ended up instead loving like art, history, and literature, and kind of ended up morphing into understanding ancient art, history, and literature, which then morphed into including ancient art, history, and literature in a lot of my urban fantasy. So as an author, I use a lot of mythologies or twists on mythology in my books. And then just overall, like I love the weird, the esoteric, the strange. Like, I love metaphysical stuff. I'm a Reiki master. What do you want to know? Like, I can do all the things.
What's your favorite part in history? Like, what's your favorite timeline in history?
Oh man, I would have to probably say like the height of Egypt, when Akhenaten was reigning, and we just don't quite know who Akhenaten was, and like why did he end up changing the way art looked in Egypt, and like that whole time is really interesting to me. When Nefertiti was around, like I love it. I think it's cool.
You're like saying these names like I know who they are.
Go look it up, guys. Google is your friend.
For real. Um, what about the conspiracies behind Egypt? Like, did we really build it, or like, how's
Oh, I
that
love that sort of
possible?
thing.
Like, how
I'm
how
an
can
avid Gaia subscriber, okay?
yeah
I like all the things. Like I entertain it all. When I write, I often genre bend. So I'm even when I teach, I have this weird love of. On one hand, I love science fiction. I love futuristic things. So like it shows up in my writing, where it's like on one hand I've got science fiction going, and the other side I've got fantasy. So I've got books where they literally mesh the two together. And then in Author Revolution, I will often like on one half of the year I'm teaching manifestation, I'm teaching mindset, I'm teaching, the woo of like how to be in the flow of all the things. And then the next half of the year I'm teaching ChatGPT and how to get your strategy on, how to do all the things, because I like that weird, maybe it's not weird, but I love that balance between those two, because I feel like they make the world more interesting. I don't know. I love it. And so when it comes to like the conspiracy theories of, the pyramids and things like that, I'm all for it. Let's entertain it all.
yeah, because I like what you're getting at, because it's like a story, right? You're telling more of a story. And the conspiracy theories, if you didn't explore it, you wouldn't be telling the full story, right? Because
Right?
you'd only be telling the one part of history that we know, but the conspiracy theories are what make more of the complete story.
And it makes it more interesting too. It adds that depth and layer to something that we already know. I think that's why I spin a lot of, like I have a series in my paranormal and urban fantasy pen name called the Diana Hawthorne Psychic Mysteries. But I take what we know, so everyone's heard of the Oracle of Delphi. Like I'll take her, my main character is actually the Oracle of Delphi. She just doesn't know it. She's 2,000 plus some odd years old. She knows she's immortal. She doesn't know why, because she can't remember the beginning part of her life. And so it's like I love taking little elements of true things that are going on, true aspects of history or mythology, or combining them all and just meshing it all together and being like, here's something new, here's something else to ponder. And I think that's where the fun is.
So how, I guess, like, let's say I want to be an author. What would you say is like the first step?
Write a book. Right? You got to write to be an author. Okay, so your first step is you got to figure out what it is you really want to write. Like, why do you want to be an author? What is it you're trying to express, or what is it that you're trying to get out? And so what I'll typically have authors do is like mind map. Have you ever heard of like the snowflake method, where you kind of start with like, okay, like something basic. I know I want to write a book. Let's start with genre. What genre is it? You'd write down the genre in the middle, and then you'd start poking off of that middle thing that says, let's say it was urban fantasy, right? It could be like anything that could revolve around urban fantasy. Urban fantasy is a genre where you are taking magical realism and you're putting it in an urban setting. So like it could be modern times, it could be in a city, it could be in a small town. Like as long as it's urban, you get the idea, right? So then that could be witches, it could be psychics, it could be ghosts, it could be like all the different things that you can think of. So you're just writing down all the brainstorming ideas of the things you enjoy, the things you like to read, the things you think you might like to write. And you just keep branching out until you get a little bit more clear on like, what are the ones that are really exciting to me? Where do I want to write? And what do I think is going to sell if that's something that's important to you? Like there is this like connect between like what sells and what you want to write. Yeah. And so that's called writing to market. But you can always find that intersect between the two. You just need to first get clear on what you enjoy first, and then see where those two things can overlap.
Let's say, hypothetically, well, this is for my brother because he's writing a book right now. He's writing a book about, it's called Purpose Over Pleasure. How to basically break through the grafts of porn addiction and over sexualizing like society, like the modern like over sexualization of everything.
Okay.
What would you tell him?
Well, that's obviously nonfiction, so that's going to be a
Yeah.
different area. And so the biggest part of figuring out what you want to write is what's the message, what's the overall theme. Obviously, there's a pretty strong theme going on there, a pretty good strong premise. And so then the idea is, how do you overcome it? So you think about the steps that the reader is going to be expecting. Like, what's the expectation the reader is going to be coming into this book wanting to learn and overcome. And so you're going to think about like the steps that you want to pull that reader through so that they can logically go through that same process with you as they're reading. So if it's really just about like, if he overcame it and now he's trying to teach it to others, what was that process like? How did purpose become the mission over the pleasure aspect of it? And then give anecdotes about how it worked. Give insights into how it worked for someone else. Give a case study or whatever. But it's really about giving the reader the steps to be able to also handle it themselves, right? So it's really getting into the outline first and then using the outline to dictate and help you write the words down.
So you've written both nonfiction and fiction?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have almost 30 books out now. I have two fiction pen names and one nonfiction pen name. My nonfiction, I only have one book that is actually published under that. I'm working on a second book because all of my other nonfiction is all in courses. So I have, I think, 9 or 10 courses that I've done. I've written a lot of blogs for myself and for other people. I've spoken at a lot of conferences. So my nonfiction really boils down to a lot of speaking gigs and a lot of speaking lessons. And so coming up with it's kind of the same in a lot of ways because you still have to structure everything in a way that makes sense to the listener and to the student or, whoever's actually going to be consuming that content. It's just trying to put it down into books. Like my first love is fiction. And so I when I'm writing, I love going to the fiction to do it, and teaching in person like really fulfills me. So I like doing like the Zoom meetings and doing the group coaching sessions where we're all in it together and we're talking and communicating. Like I tried doing the thing where it was like I'm the teacher and all the students are only just responses, right? You're seeing the responses filling through the chat bot. And it's like, that's fine, but I like the interaction. I like to actually speak to people. So I've transitioned to like a whole different dynamic, probably in the past 3 years of Author Revolution, where we're doing more chats in real life, in real time. You know what I mean? Instead of,
you're trying to help
I can only
people,
read so fast. Yeah.
Have you always liked to write, or?
I think so. Yeah. When I look back, like I wrote my first novel when I was 14. So I'm like, yeah, I probably did.
Really?
I never wanted to be an author, though. That was never on my agenda. I had an aunt. I still have an aunt. She's still alive. But she was the one in the family who was always trying to become an author. And I saw how much of a struggle it was for her. And then I also saw, like for myself, I didn't want to be like her. Because she wasn't she was one of those aunts that you kind of love to hate, Yeah,
I know.
And I was like, I don't want to be like her. So that never occurred to me. I'm just going to enjoy books and enjoy doing what I do with reading. And then it was my best friend who was like, you know what, Carissa, I think you'd be really good at writing books. You should try it. And so one day I was so bored and fed up with corporate world, I just decided to, on a whim, adhere to her advice and then haven't looked back.
Man, 30 books.
Right? It's a lot of fun, though. It's so fun.
What's your mission what's your ultimate mission as an author?
I think that depends on the genre. So obviously if it's nonfiction, my goal then is to elevate the indie author community. Like my biggest passion is helping authors see things differently, to look at the world, look at their careers through a different lens. And indie authorship is pretty new. And so we all have like these go-to ideas of how it works for us or how we're going to get seen, how we're going to publish our books, whatever the case might be. Like there's a conventional wisdom that kind of emerged. But the conventional wisdom doesn't always work for everybody. And so it's looking at things differently, taking on new challenges or new technologies like ChatGPT and not being afraid of them, but instead utilizing them in a way that helps us to leverage what we do better or help us to brainstorm better or help us to just, work faster with things that we don't overly enjoy, like social media. I know so many authors who are like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do social, which is great.
Yeah.
But you kind of do a little bit. And so if you're not a big fan of writing it, you can always use chat to help you write a script or write the post or, whatever in your voice. There's so many ways to utilize it. But when it comes to the fiction, I think the themes that really kind of resonate with the urban fantasy are really about fate. Like what is your destiny? What's your ultimate destiny about?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where all of my tagline is, where the threads of fate unravel. That's my tagline for urban fantasy, because I love the idea of fate and destiny and like how it intertwines into everything.
I like
and how
that
sometimes
too.
when you think it's all falling apart, it's coming together, right? It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
I like it. And so I use that a lot in my urban fantasy, and it doesn't matter. Like, I've written about psychics, I've written about witches, I've written about werewolves who are in their midlife, like someone who gets bit when she's in her 40s and now she's a werewolf alpha. I've written about angels. So it's like I kind of tap dance around all the things, but it ultimately comes down to what is their destiny, what is it they're meant to, what is it they're here for and meant to do. But now I also have a rom-com pen name, and of course with that it's like, okay, I need to make everyone look at the world a little differently. So each one of the rom-coms has a different trope, it has a different set of couples. So I range from, I've got the first 2 written, third one's in the works, but each one is slightly different. And then it's going to transition away from like the male-female relationships and going into female-female and male-male, and then a throuple. And then, so it's going to keep going to make people think a little differently about what rom-com and romance gets to look like. And obviously be funny doing it. So you got all the things. So it really just depends on who's my audience.
What what's the purpose of having different pen names?
Really, it's just about algorithms. So for me, my audiences all know that I do all the things. So they know that I'm Carissa at Author Revolution. They know that I am Carissa Knight as rom-com. They know I'm Carissa Andrews. If they go to carissaandrews.com, they see all of my books, because I have a Shopify store at that place. And that includes my nonfiction, it includes my rom-coms, and it includes my urban fantasy. If they're over at author Carissa Knight's website, and both of my logos, if they watch any of my logos on either of those 2 sites, carissaandrews.com or Carissa Knight, they will see the logo glitch, and it just depends on which site they're on. So like if you go to carissaandrews.com, it'll be Carissa Andrews at the top with my tagline. And if you stare at it long enough, it'll glitch for a second and it'll say Carissa Knight, and it'll go away and it'll be back to Carissa Andrews. And vice versa. If you're over at authorcarissaknight.com, it will be Carissa Knight, and it'll glitch and say Carissa Andrews and then glitch back. So that way they know that I'm the same person, right? So it's just fun. Little things like that. I have to, like, props to Taylor Swift. She gave me that idea with her Reputation stuff. It was awesome.
Does it like really matter though? Or like should you, like, would you recommend that, or
Yes.
does it matter?
Yeah. The reason it matters isn't so much for like yourself. So your own website, it matters a little bit, like with Google and SEO and whatnot. But if your audience already knows that you're doing all those things, it's not a big deal. But when it comes to Amazon, which is the largest book retailer, if you have them all clumped together, what ends up happening is Amazon gets confused, and then they don't know the type of readers to send to you or to show your books to. And so really it's just about keeping the algorithms clean, and that's really the only purpose behind it. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you just want to be anonymous, huh?
Yeah, some people want to do that. Yeah, they like, I write steamy rom-coms. Do I want my mom to know? That's a question. Like, my mom doesn't care. She'll be like, which chapters do I skip, honey? Like,
Hey, you raised steamy.
they are steamy rom-com. Yep.
Oh man, does it like the Twilights
No, that I would consider. What would I consider that?
or
Probably.
50 Shades?
Why? No, not quite as dark as 50 Shades. So no, because it's funny, but there's definitely like on-camera scenes. Yeah.
No, I love that you're like into this, because people underestimate like the power of a good story, and it's like, just look at how many movies are based off of books. Like,
Right.
there's less
Or
and less.
games.
Yeah, like there's less and less original screenplays nowadays. It's like usually like, oh, let's just take this book and create a movie version of it. And
Heck,
yeah,
they're
and
taking an old
today-
movie and doing another movie of it. Like,
No, yeah, and today it's like, I noticed on Netflix and other streaming platforms, they are taking more from other like genres too, like video games. There's a bunch of animes that I watched like originally, and they're making like a live action version of it now.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think people just really underestimate the power of writing.
I
What
agree.
about someone like me? Like I do eventually want to write one book.
Only one?
Um, yeah, just one book. And the general idea is basically I want it to be about this podcast, like all accumulation of like whatever I've learned, the guests I've met, while also including like a small biography or whatever you want to call it, uh,
Okay. So like a memoir type of situation?
memoir of my story.
Yeah.
Um, because this is like a passion project of mine too that I eventually want to turn into like a full-time living thing. Uh, what would you tell somebody that's like me?
Yeah. So then the idea is like, what's the purpose again? I'd be
Mm,
thinking about, okay, so if it's going to be more memoir, but yet you want to give examples of how the podcast really impacted you and how it changed things, or how the guests that you had changed things. You start with obviously who you are, who you were, what is it that you began as, and what is it you're transitioning into becoming? Like who is the person you've evolved through? And so that's really kind of like the basis of a memoir, like helping the
mm,
reader understand like the trials and tribulations and the struggles that you've went through, and the way that the podcast has really helped you to like evolve into the person you are now, or the person you're heading toward. You know what I mean?
mm.
Yeah.
And then just do it. I'm just
And
kidding.
then just do it. Sit your butt in the chair and start typing. You can
What
even ask
about,
ChatGPT to help you outline it. Like you can ask questions like, how would I start
yeah,
this thing? Yeah.
I think that's where people get like the misconception at. It's like, oh, you use ChatGPT. It's like, no, I prompted it
Yeah.
in
And it
the
prompted me
right way.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're communicating with it. People would think it's just
Yeah.
like it just it did all the work. Like I mean, it does a lot of work, but you have
It
to ask
can.
it the right questions. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like having a conversation, a podcast conversation. Like you have to prompt it in a way that you get an answer that is in alignment with whatever it is you're trying to actually do. Like you can't just be like, "Hey, chat, write me a really good rom-com book, go," and then it does it,
Yeah.
right? So you have to understand what it is you're trying to uncover in your book. You have to do your own outlining. You could probably get to the point where you understand your story so well that you could prompt it to help you through your chapters, but you yourself as an author are going to have to understand your story so that as you're going through, it's not going off on its own side tangent because you don't have any idea where you're trying to go, because it doesn't have, like, ChatGPT doesn't have the memory space, like even as well as Claude, right? So like Claude can remember a lot more information. So for an author, it's actually a better situation. But
Mm,
ChatGPT is so much fun in the way that you can utilize it. And so I still use Chat, but it doesn't remember everything, even when you do
yeah.
custom GPTs. So what ends up happening is if you try to like just let it do its own thing and create a story, it forgets what it was talking about in the beginning. Like
Mm,
there's too much space, too many words it's already trying to remember,
yeah.
and you'd have to reprompt it. You'd have to like download everything into a PDF, put it into the custom GPT, say re-reference everything you've already written. Let's go
Yeah.
again, So it's like it's more hassle than it's worth, I think, in that regard. If you understand your story, though, it can be a very useful tool to get unstuck.
So what's next? Like let's say I'm writing my book. Is there any like best practices for writing? Like should you be I mean, obviously, like I said, I made a post about this the other day ago. Like anything great takes time and consistency, and writing a book is like a perfect example of that commitment, discipline, dedication. Because you have to write a little. I mean, you could write a book in a day, I guess, if you spent all 24 hours. But I think it's better to write a little bit every day over time.
Yeah, I think, well, it depends on the person. There are some people who can write extremely fast. I personally like to spend a little bit of time in my worlds. So I teach rapid releasing, for instance, in Author Revolution. But with that, I don't teach like writing and publishing a book a month. I teach more like 4 books a year. And in that, you're doing 6-week writing sprints because you're also juggling a bunch of other things, right? As an author, once you get one book down, and now you're writing on book 2, now you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to write in book 3? I'm writing book 2, and I have to publish or promote book 4 or book 1. Oh my gosh, too many numbers. You know what I mean? So like you're already in this process of like juggling the books. And so you have to learn how to then continue to juggle them going forward. How long is this series going to be? Is this a series? Like, are we going to connect these books? How are we going to promote it in other places? Like all the things end up going on. And so there's a lot of things that can cloud our minds if we're not careful.
Do you think that takes away from the quality or like the story, like trying to
Not
do more?
necessarily. Here's why. Okay, so some people really thrive on writing books quickly, on putting their books out there, on doing all the things. Other people, that's not the case. And so it's really about understanding the way your brain works. Like if you start finding yourself going into burnout, if you start feeling like you're getting overwhelmed, it's not the right process for you right now. It doesn't mean never. It just means that you're maybe still onboarding too much information. You're still trying to understand story structure. You're trying to understand your plot. You're trying to understand your characters. And when that happens, your brain gets overwhelmed with a lot of data. You're just trying to consume and understand so much information and then put it down on paper for yourself, because you're always telling yourself the story first, right? But some people write and can understand story structure so well, so easily. It's like those people who are like math geniuses who can like they're just human calculators and they can jump from here to there and know the answer.
Yeah.
And so it just really comes down to what is going to work in your life? What's going to work in your day? Like if you already know your day is so full and you can only fit 15 minutes of day in like writing and getting that down, well then fit it in that way. Do it that way and just trust that every 15 minutes that you're putting towards this project, it's getting you that 15 minutes closer to being complete. So it's really you just gotta trust your process and where you personally are at.
That makes sense. What about publishing?
What about it?
Self-publishing, hiring a publisher, publicist, marketing.
Well, I obviously teach indie authors because I feel as though the way that the publishing industry has transitioned, it just makes more sense financially for an indie author to have control of their books. And the reason they can do that is then now they can have their own Shopify store. They can publish on any platform they want. If they're tech savvy enough, it's very easy to publish yourself. You can do paperbacks, you can do hardcovers, you can do audiobooks all yourself. Like you can do all of these things. It's just a matter of, are you willing to learn that process? Are you willing to go through that? If the answer is no, if the answer is like, that's too much work for me because I am doing this other thing over here that I love, then by all means, go trad, because traditionally published authors obviously do very well. So it really just kind of, again, goes back to what is it that you really want out of your author career and who do you want to be in that space? And how is that going to fit into your life? Like, do you want to be the entrepreneur of your books?
Like doing everything versus just like letting them do all the work, kind of.
Right. I mean, you're still going to have to market. So any author who's like, I'm going to hand it all over and all I'm going to do is write. No, you're not. If you go traditionally, they are going to be expecting you to be on social media and they're probably going to give you a schedule. So, yeah. And so there's
branding.
There's a lot that'll still go into it.
So what's next, Carissa?
Oh, geez. Well, right now I'm in the process of writing the 4th book in my Accidental Alpha series. That's the one where it's the midlife mom who got bit as a werewolf. And there's 5 books going to be in this series. I'm working on book 4 as of right now. And so that's coming out at the end of May. I am probably 2/3 of the way done with that book at the moment. And when it's finished, I'm actually transitioning over to book 2 of my nonfiction. It's been outlined and I have about 7,000 words in it. But that one's going to be called Write Your Reality. My first book was Write Frame of Mind, WRITE. So the same thing with Write Your Reality. It's WRIT, Your Reality. So book 1 was really about mindset and getting out getting the imposters out of the way, like the imposter syndrome aspect of being an author, where this book is going to be about manifestation and about how your mindset and future thinking about the person you want to become is going to be the ultimate thing that helps you get what you want, rather than focusing on like what's not working or how it's not working, or trying to dig through and like, you know, why am I not earning what I want to earn or whatever. You're really trying to put all of your energy and effort instead into manifesting what you really want instead. So that's going to be the next thing that I'm working on. I have four courses that I teach in different aspects of manifestation for authors. And so I'm taking everything I've already been teaching, distilling it down into a book, and getting it out into the world.
What is your thoughts on manifestation and the laws of attraction?
The laws or just the law?
I mean, I think there is laws, right? Like
there are multiple laws. There's like the law.
I could be attracted to you. I could be, or the actual law of attraction.
Right. So there's law of attraction, absolutely, and then there's the law of assumption. They kind of work together. I love it. So to me, manifestation is all about making sure that you are in alignment with the thing that you are trying to attract, right? So that means your thoughts, your actions, your words all have to be in alignment with what you're trying to bring in and not the thing that you don't want, right? So when you are, you know, talking about how you want to write a book and you're saying, I just don't have time and I can't do it just yet, or, you know, who's going to read it anyway? That's you being out of the alignment of what it is you really want. And so you're not going to allow in the process, the thought process of channeling the book, because that's really what this is. You're channeling the information to put it down on paper. And you're not going to be in the flow of, you know, giving yourself that routine like you were talking about. You're not going to be in the flow of, you know, giving yourself a deadline. So it's not going to come to fruition. It just becomes this like thing in the ether that you know you eventually want to have. You're just not there yet. But when you start locking in and make a decision, which is really your superpower, and it's step one in the way that I teach manifestation, you have to have a clear decision of what you want. And whether that be, I'm going to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or I'm going to write my book starting today, it's all the same. Like, you're manifesting stuff all the time. Like, the second you decided you want a tea and you put it in your cup, you just manifested your cup. And people think it's like this big superfluous thing, but really it all just comes down to what is it you want, decide on it. And once you have that decision locked in place, the step 2 part of it is actually out of your hands. It's trusting that it's yours, right? So it could be just a 2-second, like, of course I'm going to have tea because I have it in my house. It's there. It's no big deal. Or, and that's also a law of assumption, by the way, like holding that space where you're locking in that vibe. You're just trusting that it's coming to you. But people get tripped up with bigger things, like whether it be a book, and you're in the messy middle of a book, and you're like, is this thing ever going to end? Oh my God. Or you're in your author career, and you're trying to get it off the ground, and you're in that messy middle, and it hasn't quite happened yet. And you're like, is this ever going to do the thing? Like, your job in that space is to just lock in and trust that, of course, I've decided this is going to be successful for me. I've decided I'm going to earn X, Y, Z money from it. I've decided whatever the decision is. So then you keep taking inspired action steps, that's step 3, that come to you. So like, let's say it was getting the tea again. You take the inspired action step, you find the tea you want, you put it in the cup, right? You put the water into the cup too. Now you let it steep. You do the inspired action steps that feel like the next logical step until you have what you want. And that goes for anything as little as tea all the way up through your author career, through writing your book. You just keep taking those small action steps until it's yours. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it starts with your mindset though, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's like the difference between two people seeing a roadblock, like, or feeling stuck. Like you get stuck, you hit this roadblock, and then you either manifest stopping or you manifest breaking through the roadblock.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you have to, that's what manifestation is all about. It's about getting that mindset to the point where you see the opportunities and everything, and you see that you do have control over how to live your life. And
yeah, and you can see those different perspectives. one of the things that I teach authors, so when I'm breaking down manifestation for the first time for a lot of authors, I'll use spaghetti as an example because it's easy for people to wrap their head around, right? Like you decide, you've made the decision you're going to have spaghetti tonight. But when you go to the cupboard, you find out that there's no spaghetti noodles, right? And so now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm faced with a dilemma. There's resistance. That's your resistance level here. Okay, so I either pick different noodles. Maybe I have penne. So I'll have a penne spaghetti-ish dish. Or maybe I'm like so like irritated because that doesn't work for me that you decide, screw it, I'm just going to have tacos then because that didn't work for me. Or you're going to go, you know what, I really want spaghetti noodles. So you either go to the store or you go to a restaurant that you know serves it. Like your mindset has to be so locked in that the solution, the correct solution for that moment is going to present itself. So if you decided to go to the store and get your spaghetti noodles, you come home, you take your inspired action steps to make it until you're eating it. Or you go to the restaurant or do whatever. Or you can choose, because you always have that choice, to do something different. Have tacos or do something completely different altogether, you know, like whatever. But you see what I mean? So in the middle of things, there's always going to be a little bit of resistance. And so you have to find what is your level of comfort for how you're going to get to the thing that you want. Do you give up and just call it quits? Or do you find a more creative solution to get around it?
Yeah, I see it as like somebody who complains a lot. Somebody who complains a lot, they're just complaining that, I don't know, nothing works out for me. I can't do this. Like, life sucks. They're manifesting more of that into their life versus the person that has the mindset of like, well, I'm going to figure this out. I got this. Like, I know it's hard right now, but there's some way to figure it out. And there's always a different path I could take. And just seeing those opportunities when other people see roadblocks, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there.
So, Carissa, do you think you'll be writing books until the day you die?
Very possible, yeah. I go through streaks where it's like I like to write one type of book or another, and I foresee myself continuing onward. I think every author is going to get to a point where they have to grow and do something that stretches them. So who knows if I'll always write in urban fantasy or if I'll always write in rom-com. Maybe I'll eventually go into thrillers. Like who knows what it is. But like just keeping those opportunities and options open, I think that's where the playground of writing really gives you more opportunity to do cool things.
Yeah, I think Stephen King is still writing books.
Mm-hmm.
He's still alive, right?
Yeah. I think he's in his 70s, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but...
And he's passed it on to his sons, too. Owen and... oh, gosh. I'm trying to remember what his... Joe and Owen. There we go. Couldn't remember what his name was.
Yeah, but like he is like one of the most successful authors I know.
Yeah.
And it just seems like he just loves it. Like he just loves, I think that's the beauty in anything. If you like really love it and you could see yourself doing it for a very, very long time, I think it's worth it to give yourself a chance to go for it.
Yeah, I agree.
For anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you get stuck or when you think you have to stay in a certain anything in life, like just because this is how it's always been done or this is how I've always done it or this is the way I thought my life was going to go, then you get yourself stuck and then you're in a rut and you're not able to do some really cool things. You know what I mean? Because sometimes life is trying to guide you towards something better. You've asked for something better or more expansive in your life. And so really it's following those inspired guidance nudges towards what you want. And sometimes your subconscious mind has been running the show for a while and you haven't been allowing in the messages of all the things that you really want to be doing. Maybe you've been denying writing because you think you can't earn money or you think that's not a viable career or you can't do it or, you know, whatever the case might be. And really it comes back down to like, why not try it? Like you're here for one lifetime, right? And if that's the case, why are you sitting here not telling yourself you can't do something? Like go jump off a cliff with a parachute. Like do what you want to do because you only have this one life.
Yeah, just try not to die.
Yes, that would be helpful.
I mean,
Use the hang glider.
some people seek that though. They seek
Yeah,
like was it like living life on the edge or whatever? Like they seek
yeah,
those like deathly experiences, like cliff diving into deep waters or surfing like those tidal waves that like if you crash like you're dead or
right.
um climbing Everest, like anything dangerous. I think that just I don't know, that just makes life more worth it, I guess.
Well, I think there's a fine line between fear and excitement. And sometimes
Mm,
when people are jumping off a cliff or they're doing those dangerous things, they're reminded of that. So when like scary things come up in their career or their relationships or their whatever, they know that getting on the other side of that fear is the answer. Taking the step off is the answer because what they want is probably on the other side of that. And so I think there is a level of awareness there that happens just because they do that. And we can do that proverbially. We don't have to actually jump off a cliff, but we do need to take that first step. We need to test it. We need to like put ourselves out there and to do things that scare us a little bit so that we can really become more of who we are meant to be.
I think today it's more in our heads than ever
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
social media, technology, we're more afraid of I think we're more afraid of things now um, because of the media and technology.
Yeah. I think it depends on how much time you spend with the media too. Like if you
Mm,
are spending a lot of time watching the news or spending a lot of time on social media, you're going to be influenced by that a lot more. Where if we disconnect and only go into those places, for short periods of time or for something specific that we need or whatever, we're less influenced by what's happening by, through those people or through those
yeah.
situations. Like I have a friend who, she is very dear to my heart, but she spends way too much time focusing on the negativity that's going on in the news. And it's
Yeah.
like, you gotta cut that loose and let it go. Otherwise it will consume you. And unfortunately, some people just really like to gravitate towards those things that are more sensationalized or more, I don't know if negativity is the right word, but kind of like
Like
they get
gossip.
addicted to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you enjoy it, then by all means go for it. But if it's not bringing you joy, why are you doing it?
Well, and then I think it goes hand in hand with like manifestation, because then
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly listening to and following the gossip, the negative news, and you're building up a mindset that revolves around that. So then
Yeah.
you're gonna end up like maybe subconsciously manifesting more of that into your life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, because the more you focus on the things that you don't want, what ends up happening, I mean, it's law of attraction again, right? So the things that you don't want to have happen or the things that you're not happy about and you're thinking about over and over again, you're bringing more of that to you because that, like the universe responds in vibration. It's all vibration, it's all
Mm.
frequency. And so as you're thinking about those things, your awareness and you're more aware of what's going on. You know what I mean? So you are looking for the experience of it, or you are looking for the expectation of it, or it's like you're actively seeking it out, going, "Yeah, see, I'm validated by these beliefs."
Mm.
It can be and work the same in the opposite direction. If you're looking for better situations, you're looking for your career to turn around, you're looking for so much great stuff, and you're looking for the evidence of that, it's working for you instead of against you. It's giving you, better feelings than all of those things. You know what I mean? Than
It's
focusing
kind
on
of
the
like
negative stuff.
confirmation bias. Have you ever
Yep.
heard of that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's exactly like that. Yeah.
Well, Krista, do you want to add anything before we move on, or do
No,
you have
I'm good.
anything else you'd like to share?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things we could talk about. It's all up to you.
Have you seen that new show, Three World Problem or something, Three Body Problem?
Three body problem. Yes, I did. It's really good.
I haven't finished it yet, but
Really? Okay.
yeah, I think I have like 3 episodes left. I'm like on 5 or something. At first, I thought it was gonna be like some technology like weird show. Um, but then it ended up being basically about aliens.
Right, right. I mean, it was about technology too, but their technology.
Yeah, and I bring this up because it's like going back to the power of stories. And I think sci-fi in particular inspires our modern technology.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a way of expressing our creativity and seeing like maybe it could happen, like maybe there's a possibility.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I think it was awesome. Like they were explaining how the timeline of how fast we've developed technology. And they were like, yeah, you think you're like, we're like so far ahead of you, but just look at how fast you exponentially advanced in the last like 100 years.
Right.
And it's going to take us 400 years to
Get
get this
there.
war with you, but
All
it
because
may
we
only take,
lied.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because that,
Like, what? You're gonna like wipe us out because we sometimes lie? Okay, that's interesting.
yeah,
That was an
it,
interesting plot point. I wasn't quite sure I followed with that one, but you never know. There could be puritanical aliens out there.
you said puritanical.
Yeah.
No, I think the way they were communicating was like kind of how he was saying, like there's no barrier. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no
Yeah.
thought process. Everything we think is like on the
Shared.
alien's perspective, it's like everything we think you know. Like
Mm-hmm.
you will know everything I'm thinking.
Right. And so
So
it's
it's
just
like
a
there's
completely open situation all the time.
yeah, there's like
Yeah.
there is no lying because that's their nature. That's their like alien nature is like that's how they communicate.
And we don't even know what they look like. Like they could just be
Yeah.
non-physical. So like they could be coming here, you know, in 400 years, and that's great. But like they're non-physical, so they can't even do anything to us anyway. Like we don't know, but they're all freaking out
Yeah.
over it. It's fine.
No, I don't know. I just
Have you
love
seen
that.
Constellation?
I haven't.
Ooh, you should check that out. Constellation's really good. My husband and I are watching that right now, and I think we're on like episode 4. It's trippy. It's like
Is it on Netflix?
I think so. Yeah, and
Constellation.
I mean, it's super trippy. Um, it's it's like Lost, but in space, but not like Lost in space. Like it's super interesting because it's all about the observer effect. So like when you
Mm.
stare at like when you're looking at a particle, it's either a wave or a particle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like they utilize that concept in this show, and it's really interesting because it's like you're trying to follow the timelines of these astronauts who are on the ISS, and now they were impacted but because they were like long term in space. And it's super fascinating because like they were obviously like mentally, not just physically, because they come back and obviously they don't have like the strength that they used to have when they were pulled in through gravity and
Mm.
utilized by gravity. So they have to regain strength, but their minds are a little bit wiggy. And so it's almost like you're seeing two different timelines. Like, so when you look at the way things are working, it's different. Or like you're not quite sure what's going on with the storyline. Like, did she come back to a different version of reality? Did she end up on a different timeline? Like, what is going on right now? But it's really kind of cool to, and very, like I said, very trippy to be following along and going, okay, this is pretty wild. So, and they talk about, the particle and wave situation through an experiment that they were trying to do based off of something that they found in space at the ISS. And so it's just crazy. It's a lot. There's a lot.
No, I like those types of stories where like he tells this whole story and at the end it's like none of it happened.
Right? Yeah.
It's like like
And it's like, you were just crazy. It's fine. Like,
yeah, it's like
it was a
wait, why did I
dream.
watch this?
Hey, it's still better than getting all the way to the end of like the Lord of the Rings and they could have just flown there. I'm still irritated about
Is
that.
that what happened?
Yeah, yeah. They just stupid eagles or whatever they were, the big birds, and they just flew over Mordor and dropped the ring in. I'm like, Why didn't they just do that in the first place? Like, that's 9 hours of my life.
Well, I think because Lord of the Rings is more of like an adventure story. Like
Yeah,
it was
about the
more
journey.
about, yeah, it was more about like the journey and the friendships and people they met versus like just this ring or whatever.
But Tolkien still could have. No, he could. There was a better solution there somewhere.
What about your thoughts on the Harry Potter universe?
Oh, I like Harry Potter. Like I thought the whole series was well written. I enjoyed it when I was reading it back in the day. Terrible about the way that J.K. Rowling's kind of like spiraled out of nowhere, but that's fine. Like people are people, I guess.
I don't know what's going on with her.
Oh, she's
What's
just.
going on with her?
I am someone who is very much a like let people live their lives however they deem fit, and she's very transphobic, very vocally transphobic, and that's not where I'm at. So
Yeah, it's like I want to like because I know this is where it starts in the podcasting world, and like I'm not a political podcaster at all. I'm more like mindset, purpose, peace.
yeah,
But yeah, I think what it comes down to is just like letting people live their lives and just understanding that people can live their lives in whatever
and
way
it
they
doesn't have to
choose.
affect me. Like
Hmm.
they can be ignorant buttheads. That's fine. That it's not affecting me as long as I don't interject into their lives. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
and vice
you do
versa
you.
as well, though. And vice
Yeah.
versa as well. Like, don't, like, on the opposite side, like, don't just call everybody that doesn't, like, appreciate your lifestyle a transphobe. Like,
Right.
not everybody is afraid of you. So
Yeah.
it's both sides. It's like, I don't know. Just, just have compassion, man. Like,
Right. Right. I
that's
agree.
why I tell people at the end of the day, man, just have compassion for people and love will always win. As,
Agree.
as cliche and woo as that sounds.
But it's so true. It is so true because the only thing that can like really pull you out of darkness is light. And what's more light
Mm,
than love, right? So,
yeah. Well, Carissa, where should we begin? Completely randomized. Um, no, it really is. Like I try not to like pick the two kinky ones because there are some kinky ones in here. Uh,
well, then I might have to get my books out. Hang on.
but so it's the blue card first, and then it goes with the prompt, and then the story.
Okay, so you share something and then in your most tenacious
Yeah.
voice. Oh
Ooh.
gosh, tenacious though.
Share something heavy in your most tenacious voice or vice about share something heavy about your most tenacious vice.
Okay, is there something? Jeez,
Everybody
tenacious
has their
vice.
vices.
Yeah,
This one's deep.
I guess right. It really is. I'm like, okay, so something heavy about. Okay, so for me, I think my most tenacious vice then would be trying, like in the very beginning. So I've been writing since 2010, and I've been trying to become. I'm getting to my millionaire author destiny, right? That's part of my own goal as well. My
Mm-hmm.
most tenacious vice is really like letting go of like all the things around me in the beginning. Like I was so tenacious about going after that aspect of my career that even though like my kids were like, "Hey, let's play, let's do this thing," I had a to-do list a mile long that I was so focused and driven on that it was really hard to stop the momentum in the beginning and go, "Okay, let's drop everything right now and go play." And so I know there were definitely times in my two oldest kids' lives where they were like, is she ever gonna like leave the office? Like what is going on? Like where'd she go? And that was like definitely something I had to take a step back from probably about 2017, 2018 and really take a closer look at the way I wanted my life to work. The type of mom I wanted to be in addition to the type of entrepreneur I wanted to be. And so it kind of made me pull back and kind of pause and restructure everything ultimately.
Do you think
Yeah.
work was your vice? Like, were you
Oh,
like a
yeah.
workaholic?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because to
Really?
me, it was like I was getting up I was getting up before the kids went to school, and I was hitting the computer right away, working until the kids got up and we were getting them ready for school. As soon as they went out the door, I was working some more, and I was doing like all the things, trying to figure out, because there was a lot to learn in the beginning. There was a
Mm,
lot to test out in the beginning. There was a lot to like write in the beginning. And all of those things were happening. And I think that's probably where some of the desire and drive to start creating Author Revolution came from, because I started teaching in
mm,
2017 also, and it wasn't so much about the money then. It was about to teach other authors about how to do this sustainably where they don't follow in the mistakes that I
yeah.
was creating. You know what I mean? That you can create a balanced life out of this. It doesn't have to be crazy, you know?
Yeah, because I spoke to an author, um, Lena Morgan. She wrote Fight Languages. I think it's a new I think like once people start reading it more, it's gonna pretty much be as big as the love languages books.
Cool.
But I got to speak with her, and she made me realize that burnout is real no matter what you do. And I didn't believe it at first because I was in that mindset where, oh, like you love what you do, it gives you more energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you could take it too far. You could
I
take it
agree.
to the point where you're doing it, and that's like you become obsessed, and you're neglecting your health, you're neglecting the world around you, but you love it,
And
right?
it is so true. Yeah, cuz like I'm a
Yeah.
reader first. And when I was in that
Mm,
phase, like I wasn't reading. I wasn't I wasn't doing my workouts the way I wanted to. I wasn't eating probably. I mean, I know wasn't eating the way I should have been, cuz my diet's completely different now. But
mm,
like all those things just fell by the wayside. I wasn't the mom I wanted to be. So it was absolutely when your passion turns into obsession, that's where you're crossing that
mm.
line into like dangerous territory, not just for burnout, but for like just you in general, like the health of your balance, right? You need downtime in order to be your
Yeah.
most tuned in to your intuition.
I think I think everybody can find purpose and meaning in anything they do, but I think purpose is turning your passion into something that could help more people. Like
Yeah.
something that could is bigger than just you.
Yep.
And you can find that in anything. Like if you're a mom and you feel lost and you don't know what your purpose is, like maybe that's just to be a mom and to be there for your kids every day. You know, it
Right.
doesn't like I spoke about this with another guest as well. Like when you're trying to find your purpose and you feel lost in life, it doesn't have to be like grandiose or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it can be simple. Just
Yeah.
live life.
Because sometimes especially in like the cultures that we are right now, like we are very focused on being productive, on being
Hustle culture.
yeah, it's like having
Yeah.
that whole thing, like obtaining whatever it is that you want. And there's a certain element of that that helps us keep reaching towards our higher purpose, right? Towards what we really desire. But there's also a certain part of it where there's so much joy to be found in the simple pleasures of life. And like I teach authors sometimes, like when they're stuck or when they're feeling like that frantic energy that things aren't working, sometimes just going to wash the dishes
Oh,
is satisfying.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like just wash the dishes and get it clean and like clean. Like I know friends
But really
that
be there
have,
though. But really be there.
yeah, yeah,
Like be
yeah,
in the dishes. Like be.
right. Just be in the zone and enjoy the fact that no one is acting or asking you anything. They're not requiring anything from you. It's just you and the dishes. Like meditate with it. Like it can be simple. Allow things to
Yeah.
be simple. Yeah.
Well, Carissa, I like to ask you my final questions.
All right. Let's do it.
My first question is, what is your biggest regret?
Jeepers. Okay. Biggest regret. That's hard, man. Um, I guess I would say that my biggest regret is probably I have a friend who passed away, and she was a really, really close friend, and we kind of had a falling out. Like when I got like in the transition between getting divorced and remarried, and we
Yeah.
like she couldn't understand the divorce situation, and I never got to
Yeah.
see her like as her health was declining or say goodbye.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
that would probably be the biggest.
Yeah. Now that's I wouldn't say that's a good point to be made because I always tell people about closure.
Mm,
Like it's you find closure within you. You don't find
right.
it with other people. Like you don't have to be there and straight up tell the person like whatever closure you need to do. And this is a perfect example because you didn't
Yeah.
really get that time,
Yeah.
right? You didn't get to tell her how you felt or make up or whatever. So
Right.
now after the fact, now you have to find closure within yourself.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes it's still hard to believe, right? Because, like, there have
Yeah.
been times where I'm like, oh, she'd really like to know about this, but I can't even tell her. Like, I can't even reach out to her. I mean, you could, like, meditation wise, I guess.
Like
But
spiritually, yeah.
yeah, get into a meditation, like, channel something, it's fine. Like, do whatever you got to do. But yeah, in this physical 3D realm, not so much. So,
Man. Who or what has made the biggest impact in your life so far that makes you who you are today?
oh, geez, biggest impact. There's been so many people. I would say that the person who's probably made the biggest impact, who's transitioned me into the person I am right now, would be my husband. He is like, in some ways, he's so similar to me. Like we have a so like if you've ever looked at the Clifton strengths, right? There are 10. Like you usually look at your top 10 strengths,
Mhm.
and based off of those top 5 are like what you're really, really good at. So for me, it's number 1
Mhm.
relator, and then I'm a number 2 strategic. So that's why I like coming up with strategies. I'm a number 3. I think it's futuristic, and so I like looking at the future. But I've got a lot of like kind of like just perception based things in my my list. My husband
Mhm.
shares 6 out of the same top 10. They're in slightly different order, but so there's only 4 that we do not share that are the same. And those 4 are what really make us very, very opposite. And so like
Mhm.
I'm a people person. I am an extrovert for the most part. I can be an ambivert, I guess. I'm kind of both because I'm perfectly content being at home alone and kind of getting my
Yeah.
energy from my own things, my work, whatever. But he's an introvert.
Yeah.
He is very not a people person. Like he's a Brit, and I'm from the United States, and so it's like we can't like I've got like lighter hair, he's got black hair. Like we couldn't be more opposite. Like we've got like that whole opposite thing going on. But what he's really helped with me understanding is like how to embrace like the side of me that probably would just lean back and be like, oh, I can't ask that question, or oh, I can't dig into that, or oh, I can't say that, or oh, I can't do that.
Mm.
He's like, why not? Like, just do the thing. Like, just get it out there. You're like, he's very blunt and very very to the point, and he
Sounds like a
doesn't.
man thing
Yeah,
to say.
maybe, but he's I don't know. He's next level with it sometimes, and I'm just like, really though. And so I think there's a lot of ways he's pushed me to be better or do things that maybe I would never have thought in my wildest dreams to try to accomplish or try to reach for or try to include in my career or whatever. So I would definitely say him.
I think that goes back to like your mindset though, right? And like what
Mm,
you believe in.
yeah,
Like if you don't believe you can become a millionaire author, what are the chances? But
yeah,
then that
it's pretty
first
slim.
step, yeah, but that first step is having some sort of belief. And then it's like, okay, well, how do I start believing in myself? I
Yeah.
think believe you can start believing in yourself by action, like through the action,
Yep.
through evidence, you start building confidence and belief.
Absolutely, because you're reprogramming your subconscious mind. One of the things
Mm.
that we teach in Author Revolution, so I have a membership called Your Future Self. And all it is like, have you ever heard of Beachbody, the workout programs?
Like in the 90s?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they're still going. They're called Body now, whatever.
They're still doing
Shut it. I still use it. Okay, so anyway, forget it. It's like having so they create these workout programs, right? And so you go do the workout program based off of, like, you just go in every day and like, okay, it's Tuesday, I'm on week 2, you go to Tuesday, week 2, and you do the workout. Well, we've created a similar thing. My friend Tammy and I, she's a board certified clinical hypnotherapist, and then I do meditation. So she does hypnotherapy, I do meditations inside this program. And what we do is we have like a theme for the month of whatever it is. Maybe it's money, maybe it's reaching your higher purpose, maybe it's NaNoWriMo. Whatever you're trying to accomplish that particular month, you can come in and listen every day. There's like 4 weeks to each program, unless it's NaNoWriMo, because then it goes through the whole month of November. But you have 4 weeks every day. You know what meditation or hypnosis you're having, and it unlocks a different one each day. But the cool thing with both of them are they're guided so that you are trying to retrain your subconscious mind to believe what you want to believe. So if you want to become a millionaire author, if you want to earn more money in your author career, but your mindset is keeping you stuck wherever you're at, start listening to things that get you into the theta brainwave. And once you're in theta, now you're open to hypnosis. You're open to understanding things in a different way. Your subconscious can onboard new information, and you can really kind of weed out the things that are kind of keeping you stuck. So that's like the way that we come at things with Author Revolution and trying to help authors overcome those limiting beliefs or overcome like the resistance that they're having to having whatever they want is through helping them through meditation and hypnosis. Because the subconscious mind will keep you like rooted to the ground if you don't deal with it. And it runs they say anywhere between 90 to 95% of your daily thoughts and your daily habits. It's wild.
Yeah, I like to just think of it like in a simple mindset is like your subconscious mind is your default way of thinking. And what you just explained is you're basically just reprogramming your default. So every time you fall back onto something, you fall back onto believing in yourself instead of giving up.
Yes. That's exactly it. Like if you're the kind of person that gives up all the time and you want something else, you want to write the book. Well, then your first step maybe isn't to just go ahead and write the book or try to create the routine. Maybe your first step is actually to start with meditations or with hypnoses to reprogram your subconscious mind first, to remind yourself or help yourself shift so that you understand that you can believe something different. Because beliefs can be like, when you look at a belief, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's a limiting belief or whether it's a positive belief. A belief is just a thought you continue to think. And if you are just thinking a thought over and over again, all it's doing is rewiring over and over that neural pathway.
Yeah.
So if you don't like that thought or that belief, you have to start shutting down the pathway. So when that thought arises, acknowledge it, go, oh, there's that thought that's keeping me stuck again. And then you go, but I'm not going to do that because it doesn't have to be true. So then what is the belief you would rather have be true? So let's say it's, I can never earn money as an author. And you feel it crop up like, oh, there's no point in me releasing this book because I'm never going to earn money as an author. But is that really true? And then you have to go, okay, what would I rather have instead? Well, obviously I've made money as an author. Of course I can earn more. I just need to like find the right readers and maybe have more books in my backlist. And maybe after a certain point, I will go viral because someone will read my book and they happen to be an influencer, or like, a celebrity will find it, or who knows, whatever the case might be. Maybe a newspaper picks it up. Like we're not in control of how things finally go viral. And so it's just a matter of like trusting that it doesn't have to be true. Like being stuck, being poor as an author, being poor as a creator doesn't have to be the ultimate truth. And if it doesn't have to be the ultimate truth, what would we rather have and what would we rather believe about ourselves instead? What feels better?
Yeah. I think for me, as somebody who's going down this creator podcaster path, is just trying to be the most authentic version of myself without trying to offend too many people on the way there.
You're probably going to offend people if you're being your authentic self. That's how it should technically be working.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not going to resonate with everybody. And when you do resonate with people, then it's more authentic and it's more true. That connection.
100%.
Yeah.
My next question is, What is a lesson you had to learn the hard way?
So many. Let's see. Lesson I had to learn the hard way. That family doesn't necessarily mean like 100% support. So there was definitely a time in my life, so during that same divorce situation where, you think your parents, for instance, are going to always be there for you. And when they don't understand a situation and they don't understand what you're doing or why, and you can't get them to understand, that there's a certain level of disconnect that has to happen. And so sometimes letting go is the only way forward. And so, like, for me, I had to let go of my parents for 2 years before they could, like, come around to understand why I got a divorce, why my two youngest kids, and their dad and I were separating, and all the things, because they just couldn't wrap their heads around it, and they wouldn't hear me. And so for my own sanity, I had to realize, like, okay, just because I love them and just because I thought they would understand where I'm coming from doesn't necessarily mean they do or get me. But that's not going to stop me from being the authentic person who I know I have to be in this moment. So I had to be stronger than that current circumstance, that current situation, knowing and hoping that at some point they would come around, which they did. They obviously did. But it was like 2 of the longest years of my life where it's like, you don't have your parents. Yeah. And so, but at the same time, now our relationship is stronger. I'm no longer like, I don't think they see me as the same person they did before that happened, because I had to stand up for what I knew in my heart was right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just add that it's okay. Like your family, your close ones, they don't have to understand you.
Yeah, I
You know?
agree. I agree. And sometimes we
when you
wish they
start
did.
letting it go. Yeah, we do. Like, in the perfect world, we always do, right? We always,
Yeah.
like, I think that's just part of human nature. Like, we always want to be understood. And when we're not, we let our emotions, like, take control, or we go into this autopilot mode. But I think what solves that is just understanding that it's okay to not be understood all the time. And
Right. And
that's
sometimes
it.
you're just ahead of the time. Like I think about authors, sometimes their books are ahead of the time. They're not, like, they're writing what they're meant to write. They truly are. But the audience isn't ready yet. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's like you have to, like, let the evolution of humanity, in a sense, evolve to the point where now your books are going to meet your audience where you were at.
It's kind of like
5-10 years ago.
Like technology sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's just about timing. And I think there's a story about that. Like, there was like a couple other companies that made a very similar iPhone before the iPhone came out, like years before the iPhone came out. But the iPhone, when it came out, was like revolutionary. But there was other companies that already did it years before. It just wasn't the right timing.
And it probably wasn't the right branding. You know what I mean?
Branding,
yeah, because it's like it has to be eye-catching and different enough. You as a person, like whether you're an entrepreneur or an author or whatever you're trying to do in this world, it's like you have to embrace who you are and that difference just enough so people understand it and can like latch onto it. And there are always going to be those early adopters who get you right away because they're there with you. But sometimes if you're ahead of the time, it just takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, like I think I'm an early adopter.
Same.
Especially to the Cybertruck. I want a Cybertruck.
My son wants a Cybertruck. That thing is so ugly. But he wants one. He wants one so bad. He's 18 and he's like, this is so cool because it's so different. And I'm like,
no,
it
yeah,
is
that's
different.
what I'm saying. And because it's different, it'll turn off a lot of people.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to be different to open people's minds.
Because it breaks a mold, right? Yeah, you have to break the mold sometimes, and sometimes that means doing something that's a bit out there and other people don't quite get. Like, to me, I can appreciate it. I just don't want one. I really wanted a Lyrique, a Cadillac Lyrique, but apparently, or Lyric, however they pronounce it, I don't know. I've never heard it It's the new
Like a
Cadillac that's
luxury.
an electric, yeah. But unfortunately, they're having issues, so I don't want a this year or a last year version.
Well, there's this new, I seen a recent post. There's this new um Chinese like all electric company that's like trying to compete with Tesla, but like in China. And they're only in China right now, but man, they look really good. Like the cars look really good. The
Is that Polestar?
technology,
Or is it? Because I know my husband really likes Polestars, but I can't remember where they're from.
I don't think they're even released yet.
Okay.
It's an all China company that it's brand new, all electric cars, and they're trying to compete with Tesla, and they're like way more affordable though.
That's cool. That's cool.
So we'll see if they ever expand internationally.
Right?
But yeah, just think different, like Apple.
Heck yes, I agree. Yeah,
Um,
it's really how you're going to stand out.
no, for real, for real. But my next question is, what would you experience in life, or what would you do in life if you had all the time and all the money in the world?
Oh man, I would definitely be traveling a lot more than I am right now, and traveling just for fun. So like I travel quite a bit, but I do it for conferences and things that
Like
I'm
work,
speaking at or
yeah.
going to. And so to me, I would be traveling a lot more to England because my husband's, like I said, he's from England, and so his family's there. So his siblings and his mom, and so we'd go over there more often, rather than having to have them come here when we're like in between doing all the things that
Some
we do.
fish and chips.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I guess I would like to go to more ancient sites. So like go see Egypt, obviously. Go to the Parthenon,
Mm,
obviously. Like go to some of the ancient sites and just kind of see what to see and do that, because that just sounds like so much fun. Machu Picchu, like I'm on it. I will train so that I can deal with those higher altitudes. Just tell me what to do and I'm on it, you know?
no, I appreciate history like so much more now than I ever did because like growing up in high school, you're like, man, what the heck is the point of this crap? It's
Right? Why
like,
do I need to learn this old stuff from way back in the day? Yeah.
but now I appreciate history because history teaches us about who we are today
Mm,
and what
yeah.
we've gone through as a
Well, and it repeats
species.
itself if we're not careful. Like if we're not watching what's happening, we're gonna.
Oh no, 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 no. I like that you brought that up because the author of Principles, Ray Dalio, he predicted um with like 60% accuracy or something. I don't know where he gets the statistics, but he is like or was the CEO of like the biggest hedge fund in the world worth like $1 trillion or something. Like
Holy
crazy.
crap!
And he used it like algorithms, statistics, AIs to predict the markets and it worked in his favor.
Wow.
But he wrote Principles if you never heard of it.
Okay.
And he predicted with like 60% accuracy that America is on the same path as Rome, as
Mm,
ancient Rome. Like
yeah.
we're gonna uh like I think Rome lasted like 700 years or something or I don't know the exact amount of time, but we're on that path and we're gonna eventually have a downfall as the greatest country in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely been interesting to watch, but again, I go back to like the news too. It's like there's only so much of it that I can watch without going. uh,
Like
yeah,
cringe
because
or
I think
what?
oh, I could see that happening a long time ago. I would say at least a decade ago. It was like, oh,
Mm.
we are not on a good path right now. And I think a lot of that comes down to that whole concept of not being willing to look at others' perspectives.
Oh
So,
yeah. Like
if
it
we're
has
not,
to be this way.
yeah, it's like if we have two sides who are saying the exact same thing, but they're polar opposites, going, it has to be this way, and no, it has to be this way, then there's a little bit of a dilemma. But not always is it right to go toward the middle either, because in the
Hmm.
middle is sometimes staying stagnant. So it just depends on like
Yeah, that's
who do
true.
we really want to be, like what is it we want to stand for as a country, and like where are we going? Because right now it feels like we're going backward instead of forward, and
Man. That's what I always tell people whenever we get into politics, because I hate politics. But it's it's like it's like people who are like so stuck on like a religion or something. It's like,
Mm.
no, you have to believe. And then it's like, oh, like if you're so like religious and you believe in love and whatever, but you hate me for believing in a different way, then it goes against your religion.
I
And
like
it's
how
just,
Ricky Gervais
yeah,
puts it. He's when he's talking to people about why he's an atheist. He talks about like, do you believe in this God, this God, this God? And when they go no, he's like, okay, see, there are like 700 plus like gods out there
gods,
in
yeah.
humanity. I just don't believe in one more. And they're like, oh yeah, like what? Because all it is to him is like it's just one more God that he doesn't believe in, where
See,
they
I
believe in
think
all the.
I've came to the conclusion that I do believe in a higher power. Like I used to say I'm atheist. I think religions, it's all the same. We
Yeah,
just put a different label on it.
I agree. I've heard it described as a diamond, where it's like you're looking at different facets, but
Mhm.
ultimately it's the same diamond. It's
Mhm.
the same part, like the same whole, right? The same source. I
Mhm.
think that's why that really resonates with a lot of people now, talking about it in a more abstract way, like the universe or source energy
Mhm.
or higher
Yeah.
consciousness, because it feels more encompassing and it feels more accurate to our
Mhm.
subconscious mind or maybe to our soul level. I don't know, but it just feels more real.
And easier to like wrap your head
Yeah.
around or whatever you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of some guy sitting in a throne wearing a white robe going, no,
Yeah.
thou shalt not have sex on a Sunday. Like, no. Like,
Mm.
really? Like, what's happening right now?
The Ten Commandments.
Yes.
Um no, I was getting to that like we're called the United States, but we're forever divided because
Mm,
we always have uh, either the red, blue sides, the
hmm.
Democrats versus Republicans. And it's like, how are we united when we're always against each other?
Well, and what's ironic about all of that is it just comes down to who's better at gerrymandering. So honestly,
Hmm.
if the states weren't gerrymandered, there would be a whole different energy happening with the states.
What is that? What is gerrymander?
So that's where like whoever is in charge of a state typically this is what
Hmm.
they do. They will draw district lines based off of where they know certain individuals tend to vote. So that's why like if you ever come down
Yeah.
in to see a state, like the districts and where like where people go to vote because your state and the voting system part of it comes down to like those specific polling places. And if they can draw a district that will favor their type of voter better,
Yeah, like a
they're going to draw
demographic.
it in a weird shape because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to turn it all red or they're trying to turn it all blue. But if we didn't have that at all,
Yeah.
we'd actually be very surprised because the majority of the states would be blue. It's very weird.
Really?
Dead serious. Even Texas.
That's like freaking conspiracy
It
theory
is.
thing.
No, it's dead serious. Look it up. Dead serious. See how gerrymandering works and
uh,
why it needs to go away.
yeah. Mind blown right there.
Yeah, it gets crazy. And that's part of the reason why you just kind of go, I'm not going to change it as one individual. So I'm going to
Yeah.
just hope that sanity prevails at a certain point. But if not, I'm over here happily writing my books and enjoying in
Just
the
yeah, just hope
escapism.
there's no like world like war,
Yeah.
like hope there's no war here and just no war in general, but
Yeah.
it's a business. So,
Yeah. And it's big business, unfortunately.
yeah. But Carissa, politics aside, is there anything you'd like to share with my audience that you think would resonate with them?
I guess the biggest thing would be like no matter what it is you're trying to do, like whatever life you're trying to live, to just stay open to hearing like whatever your higher self, your higher nudgings are trying to urge you towards. And the way that you know you're on the right track is when you're feeling good. Like your emotions are kind of like a guidance system. So if you're feeling good about what you're doing, even like I said, going back to the dishes, even if it's just doing dishes that day, like you are then in alignment with your higher purpose. It might just be your higher purpose for the next 5 minutes, but at least you're tapped into your true source energy, your true self. And so the more you can make decisions based off of how you're feeling, and you're reaching for those next better feeling thoughts, those next better feeling actions, those next better feeling things that you want to do, and just focus on the joy of doing them, you're going to end up finding yourself either transformed if you are in a place that you're not enjoying right now, or you're going to end up elevating to a place where you love what you do even more than you thought possible. And so it's all about just trusting that it gets to be good. And the more you trust that, and the more you are focusing on those breadcrumbs of like, what brings me happiness, you'll ultimately find yourself there.
I love those breadcrumbs.
Me too. And sometimes they're weird breadcrumbs. Sometimes they're like, you need to go out of the house today and go to like the dollar store. And you're like, but I don't need anything from the dollar store today. But okay, universe, whatever. And then you go down there and you meet someone who's going to be your next best friend. Or, kid you not, I met my PA at the grocery store. So it's like, it just depends. Like sometimes you're just nudged to go do something wild and weird, and those breadcrumbs lead you to good things.
Sometimes.
I met my husband on Twitter.
Really?
Sometimes. Yeah. We were talking about our first books.
That's crazy. Yep. And y'all lived in the same area? Here now.
No, he lived in England.
Damn. I don't even. That's another podcast. But where do you want people to go check you out?
Yeah, so if you want to check out Author Revolution, it's authorrevolution.org. So it is author and revolution. Yes, there are 2 R's next to each other. .org. That has all the courses or the things that I do just to get a better understanding. If they're interested in both the rom-coms or the urban fantasy or nonfiction, everything's over at carissaandrews.com. But there are other sites too. So it's like, but it's all there. Like it'll all lead you back. If you wanted to purchase a book or check out any of the books, it's all going to bring you back to my store.
Before we close out, what is your favorite rom-com movie?
Oh gosh, movie? I thought you were going to ask book, because that's way better. I'm not a Hallmark movie girl, unfortunately. Let me think. Okay.
Well, you never know. They might make a movie out of one of your books.
That'd be amazing, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I think I would have to say The Proposal with Sandra Bullock, because that was darn funny. That was actually really funny.
I think I've seen that one, but I forget it.
It was good. You'll have to go back and check it again. You can't miss it.
What about the Will Smith one, where he was like the player, and he was like...
I don't know if I've seen that one.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No. I've seen so much of Will Smith stuff, though, but more his like action-y stuff.
See if I can pull it up real quick. Will Smith, rom-com. Oh, Hitched.
Oh, yes, I have seen that. Yes, it's just been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
2005.
That was good. Yeah.
That was the first one that came to my mind for some reason, but
that's funny.
Maybe because it's from a man's perspective.
That could be. Yeah.
Because it's usually like the girl. It's usually rom-coms are usually like the girl is the protagonist, and she's heartbroken, hopeless romantic.
I think that's why I like the books better, because you can, like, typically in a rom-com or even in contemporary romance, you're going to see both perspectives. And so they are both the protagonist of the book. And so you're going back and forth and seeing like the world through their lenses, and it's kind of fun to play with both perspectives, because you can be an unreliable narrator and like share some things but not share other things, and it's cool. I like that kind of concept. So
I actually just seen a recent one, rom-com with Sydney Sweeney, and it did something similar to that, where it kind of showed both perspectives, and like they hated each other at first, and then
I love that. That's my favorite trope. I love enemies to lovers. That's my favorite trope to read. It's like I haven't written enemies to lovers yet. That's my next my rom-com series in Dirty Developments. That's going to be an enemies to lovers. I have it unintentionally in Oracle, where like I knew enemies to lovers was a thing, but I didn't at the time. Like it was, I don't know, my 4th book written, and so I this book is going to be a very intentional enemies to lovers. But I love that trope.
Well,
I think it's so funny.
No, it's funny because it gives me like that like makeup sex vibes. It's
Right?
like I hate you. What?
Right? It's so different there. Yeah. Well, they have the best banter because you're able to really just play off each other, and they're so irritated with each other that it's like no holds barred. They just say whatever's on their mind, and sometimes it's just so freaking funny. I love it. It cracks me up.
Everybody, go check out Carissa Andrews and all her books, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you
Peace.
for having me.